So I went and watched Strange World today, and I wanted to go ahead and give my opinion about not only Strange World as a movie, but the expression of and concern about marketing that has been going on and that I've been seeing being discussed online regarding this movie. First of all, I'm going to start with information that is not spoilery, but I will definitely get into spoilers, but I'll let you know before I do that. I, I'm pretty sure I first saw marketing for this movie a couple months ago. I don't remember the time frame, but it was before the movie came out, probably online. And by marketing, I mean I saw it on social media because that's usually where I am looking. And I noticed that the younger character, the teenage character in this, did not present typical masculine, like, boy. So it was not necessarily super clear outside of voice what their gender was going to be, but it was made pretty obvious that it wasn't just a typical heteronormative. I'll just say that. So I hadn't seen much else about it. Also, that what I saw could have been an ad, or it could have been somebody resharing it from a page posted by Disney on either Instagram or Facebook. Didn't necessarily mean that what I saw had money behind it. It just means that it was shared and then reshared and in my feed. We'll take that. Obviously, this was supposed to come out in November around Thanksgiving time. And I was already seeing some discussion about how people were not going to see this movie because of this particular character who was, come to find out, is a gay male teenage character from the movie. Of course, the first thing that I noticed about this was, oh, awesome, there's a black woman in it, and black woman plus white main character man equals a mixed race child. And they kind of gave the information about the story being about this dude dealing with his dad, leaving him, exploring all of that sort of situation. On the surface, it looked like a Atlantis sort of journey to the center of the earth type movie. That's what rose concerns for me because we've just gone out of the pandemic. Of course, there was a big push to the theater to see Wakanda Forever. And that was because that was a very important next step in not only the Marvel continuity, but seeing how they presented the story of the Black Panther now that Chadwick Boseman is no longer with us. Of course, Black people who came in droves to see Black Panther 1 were going to see the sequel to Black Panther. That was a null and void. We were going to see it on the big screen. Anyway, no contest. When it comes to animated movies in the theater, that's a little bit different because there's still a huge part of the community that sees anything animated as for kids, specifically for children. I don't think that's ever actually gone away. I can't actually think of an animated movie that has done that well, that had a focus on adults outside of maybe Avatar, and that was still people bringing their kids. But if you remember when Avatar came out, there was this huge push of people who were like, oh my God, I can't believe how beautiful this is. I went to see it multiple times. I saw it with my family. I saw it by myself. Like these, grown ass people who are going to see Avatar because they've never played video games and have never seen anything so beautiful. Granted, the James Cameron movie is very good. I'm not saying it's not worth seeing or wasn't worth seeing in theater. I actually don't think I saw it in the theater because at the time I was like, I have video games, so I'm just going to play those, and the story doesn't necessarily interest me. So anyway, that being said, that was one of the big pushes. That was a majority animated, had a lot of animated elements. I would say something not rated for children, and I can't think of, off the top of my head, which is weird because I watch a lot of cartoons, a similar animated film that came to theater that was not geared towards children. Since Titan AE, which I'm sure they didn't know who was that main audience. And so that already creates a little bit of a concern because people are like, do I bring my kids to see this? Because this looks sort of like something for adults, like a Star Wars-y thing. I love Star Wars, said some grown-ass man from that time frame. But does my kid love Star Wars? They should because this is my kid. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. This is definitely going to have to be a YouTube, not a TikTok or multiple TikToks. Titan AE went to theater. It did awful. It did awful. Again, not a Disney movie, but animated. Did not do well. People talk about it later, but it didn't do well in theaters. The same thing happened with really a lot of male-focused, adventure-y, non-musical specific movies. I think Tarzan, I've looked up, was a little bit different, but also it had that killer soundtrack behind it with Phil Collins. Yeah, I was going to do well, and shirtless man in jungle. I don't know, maybe people were just like, yes, bring your little girls to see that. We should bring our daughter to go see Tarzan. That sounds like a great idea. That was me being a mom from the 90s. Tarzan was great. Did really well in the theaters, surprisingly. Hercules, not so much. Possibly because people were not in love with the fact that Megra was like, oh, I'm a grown-ass woman, I don't need no man, no help situation. Maybe because it wasn't as much of a musical. Things like Aladdin did really, really well. That had, of course, a very popular name behind it. Robin Williams, who was added into that marketing, had the same sort of musical talent that was going on for the previously really well-known musical animated movies at the time, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, all those things, very consistent. When it came to things like Hercules, why'd that do so badly? I don't know. There was fighting. Men like fighting, but like, do men like to bring their boy children to watch cartoons about fighting? I don't know. Let's move on. Atlantis. Atlantis did awful in the movie theater. Definitely not a musical. Definitely had a male lead. Had a really top-notch voice actor behind it. If you were into Back to the Future and some of the other shows that Michael J. Fox was in during the time, but did really, really, really bad in the theater. Adventure, no music, sort of like a deeper explorational storytelling, not necessarily cute and kooky stuff. So closer to Titan AE than to like Hercules. Didn't do good, and we've known that for decades now. Treasure Planet did not do well at all. Again, exploration, dude as the main character, no music. There's not even there's not even a female love interest. Like, there is, but it's for a side character, and she's fantastic, by the way. The captain of that ship is like super amazing. But I mean, sort of a boy goes on adventure, give him a rough and, weathered old man to lead the way and try to help him, give him a cutesy, squishy little side animal thing that is comic relief sometimes. Really very similar to a lot of the elements of Strange World. They just aged one of the characters and almost like duplicated and aged one of the characters who's supposed to be the main character. That did awful. It did terrible. And in hindsight, we look at it and we're like, this movie was amazing, says the 35-year-old woman who at the time was a much younger woman who was like, anyone with a Don Bluth haircut going on swashbuckling adventures in space, I'm going to love that. That was definitely a Renee movie. Titan AE, definitely a Renee movie. Literally the same sort of thing. Don Bluth haircut, actually done by Don Bluth. Space exploration, young, boy band looking character. Atlantis. Don Bluth haircut, under Earth exploration, nerd, black cast of people. Obviously, I loved Atlantis. Now we get to Strange Worlds, which we're not quite at Strange Worlds yet. Before that, you have the terrible situation that Disney has had to deal with, Disney and Marvel have had to deal with anything regards to marketing homosexual, non-heteronormative characters to a global audience. One of the most recent case in points was the Eternals. And there is this huge concern because, honestly, it's because the Asian market does not want to see it. It is against everything. They don't want to see it. They don't want their marketing. They don't want it in their movie, superhero, non-superhero, whatever. That was a big concern. And I actually don't know how well Eternals did in theaters. I did not see it, but as just a general superhero-y movie, I actually really enjoyed it. But I enjoy a lot of movies that people don't seem to necessarily like because I just watch the movie and I don't try to compare it to its comic book predecessor. We've already established that Disney has to be very careful whenever they put anything with a non-hetero character in it. Combine that with the fact that they put not only a gay-presenting character, but a black gay-presenting character into this movie that has a very similar structure as multiple previous animated movies that have done very bad in the theaters. It would not matter how much marketing they could even do, it was not going to do that great. And coming out of a pandemic where we're already having massive concerns about still going out, it may be an endemic now, there's still COVID, RSV, the flu, everything happens during this holiday sort of, fall time. So people are not as willing to go to the theater and risk it if they don't have to. We are all at home streaming everything. They took a huge chance on this movie being successful. And there was absolutely no way it was going to win, historically or culturally. I think the part that makes me the most upset is that they were almost doomed from the start because anytime they tried to be more inclusive, the masses, at least 50% of the country, does not want to see gay people on a big screen. They don't want to support outside of their streaming service where they could just turn to something else. They don't want to put the money into the theater and say that we endorse this sort of character in our storytelling. Totally disregard the fact that you could go onto Disney Plus and watch The Owl House, Star vs. the Forces of Evil. If parents find out you're watching Owl House, you might as well change the password yourself on your Disney Plus account because they will take it away. But there are a lot of parents who are just against endorsing giving money towards something that has not only a gay character, but a black gay character. Why would they give their money to see, for their kids to see that that exists? A lot of black families, probably the same thing. Why do they want to show that this exists? Oh, they're sexualizing characters, or putting it in our faces, or putting it in our children's faces and making them gay. It's not true. And if you can watch multiple movies that had gay musicians creating the music behind the scenes, if you can watch multiple movies that had non-consensual kisses between a man and a woman, Stockholm relationships, I think you'll be okay with interracial and gay people on the screen. Your kids are not going to get any more confused, distracted, or encouraged by a gay relationship more than a straight relationship. Look at me. I grew up just fine. I've been watching both. Bottom line is, without spoilers, which I'm glad I was able to do, and I'll make the spoilery one for a different video, this movie was unfortunately doomed from the start. And the articles that read how poorly it did as an opening, I'm pretty sure are in place to just justify any changes to Disney's inclusivity and diversity clauses going forward. They can easily now say, see how bad this did? See how terrible this was opening? We tried animation. You guys hated it. We tried gay people. You hated gay people. We tried black people. You didn't like them either. We just won't do any of it anymore. You can go back to your blonde-haired, blue-eyed princesses, because that's safe. 50% of the United States votes that we love blonde, blue-eyed, straight relationships. And that's it. If we're going to put in animation, that's all it's going to be. If we're going to focus on a medium, we're going to focus purely on live action, supplemented by a lot of computer graphics that they're also going to hate. But they mostly hate it because there's black people and gay people in it. But we're not going to tell them that. And we will just focus on live action. Wink. So those are my feelings that I felt like I was able to get out pretty succinctly regarding Strange World's marketing and visibility. I think you should watch it in the movie theater. As an adult who is really into fantasy, this movie captures a lot of really wonderful scientific and mythological elements. I did hear some people say that their kids got bored. F them kids. This movie is more for an enlightened teenager than a child. I don't know what children are watching, but if you're going to bring them to the movie theater, it probably has to be something that's super engaging and animated and like pew, 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 like things happening all the time, color, fight scene, blah. I don't know. This is not. This is an insightful adventure exploration. And as part of exploration, there's a lot of exploring and taking in the visuals. And there are some hijinks and some suspense, but it's not like things bouncing off the wall. They show a really cool aspect of just what farm life looks like, what home life looks like, what city life looks like, what exploring and seeing an entirely new landscape looks like. I don't know what else they want. I don't know what kids want, but this is probably not for them. In closing, I will say this. I felt like this was sort of a movie from the opposite gender perspective as Turning Red, because Turning Red, you could tell, was a woman's experience dealing with puberty and her mother and, embarrassing growing up elements of life that a lot of women can relate to. I think Strange World dealt with some paternal issues that some dudes who have, strained relations with their fathers are hoping not to be their fathers, trying to raise their children to be different than how their fathers raised them to be, or mothers, whatever your situation is, but dealing with parents who have high expectations for you and trying so hard not to present those onto your kids that unfortunately you're doing the same thing. So there's some real life lessons, some real life things to pull from this and someone's real experiences probably. So I highly recommend you go watch it. The director also worked on Raylan Last Dragon, Baymax, which was like a huge blockbuster. We didn't even get to talk about that, but internationally that grossed a lot of money, probably because, it had a little bit of Stan Lee in it and it was based off of a comic book, which most things kind of are now. So I would say give it a chance if you liked Big Hero 6. If you saw the movie, I'd love to talk to you about it because not a lot of people have watched this movie. So please hit me up, let me know. And hopefully we'll continue to be able to support more outside the box shows and movies in the theater or just with our money in general and with our words and our reviews. So thanks for watching.